This is Richard Wolff with another Wolff Responds. And this time my topic is the enormous multi-trillion-dollar program for taxing and spending coming from the new Biden administration. I want to take a step back and ask you to join me in taking a broader look at what is going on. The amounts of money here are unprecedented for peacetime. They are enormous amounts of money under any circumstance. And I think they bespeak an understanding of the depth of the crisis this society, American capitalism, and indeed global capitalism, is now engaging. Let me explain. This enormous amount of money being spent on rebuilding families, rebuilding infrastructure, rebuilding the healthcare system, you name it, is a sign that things are very, very bad. And you can play around with all kinds of phrases to disguise or hide or minimize the problem. But the amounts of money being thrown around here give the lie to all of that. So let's see what's going on. We are now going through one of the worst, if not the worst, breakdown of the American system in its history. We have one of the worst economic crashes of American capitalism, second only to the Great Depression of the 1930s. But unlike the Great Depression, we are at the same time going through not only a viral pandemic of terrible global proportions, but we are also going through a very painful recognition that the American system was painfully incompetent to deal with this. As one of the richest countries in the world, with one of the most developed healthcare systems, the United States nonetheless ranks number one in the percentage of its people that are dead from this disease. This is extraordinary. 600,000 dead people? Whatever the exact numerical percentages are, for this country to have failed so badly to be prepared, so badly to cope, wow, that's a sign of system failure. But so is the economic crash, separate from, however overlapping with, COVID. We are in the third crash of this new century. The dot-com crash in 2000, the subprime mortgage crash in 2008, and now this crash, which once again we name about something other than the capitalist system, which has crashed like this every 4 to 7 years, with the only difference being sometimes the crashes are short and shallow, and other times they're long and deep. We never really climbed out of the Great Recession of 2008 and 9 before we were whacked again by this system's basic instability. And because we didn't prepare for COVID, and because we didn't cope with lockdowns as we could have and should have, and waited instead for the profitable opportunity for vaccination, we're paying a very heavy price in the educations interrupted, the productivity gains lost, all the suffering, all the dislocation that a COVID disaster on the scale we are experiencing means. And we will be paying the medical costs of all those people who contracted the disease for decades to come. So yes, you put all this together and you can understand why old problems of the United States never solved are now bubbling into view with all their ugliness multiplied by the fact that they're happening when we are already in such trouble. And what do I mean? I mean police violence against poor people, particularly black and brown ones. I mean white supremacy. I mean conspiracy theories gone crazy. Bizarre politicians saying things we thought no sane adult would ever say again. Keep all of that in mind. It'll help you understand why the Biden administration is taking such extreme measures in two ways. Number one, the government is intervening in the private economy on a scale that until recently was thought of as quote unquote un-American. The Federal Reserve is pumping money. The federal government is running deficits. The federal government is helping this industry and that industry. The federal government is punishing competitors from other countries, especially China. The government's hands are everywhere, and it is throwing money everywhere. But it is very much an open question whether this is all too little or too late, or whether throwing money is adequate when you've got a system that isn't working well. Let me repeat, with 600,000 people dead in this country, one of the richest in the world, one of the most developed medical systems, it suggests that money and wealth aren't solutions, and throwing more of them at the current crisis may not be a solution that's adequate either. But make no mistake, however rationalized by we must be number one in the world again, or we must defeat the Chinese in competition, or whatever glorious phraseology is used, these extreme steps, this mountain of money, is a sign of desperation in the face of crisis much more than it is about aspirations for future glory. This is Richard Wolff for Democracy at Work.